Good evening. My name is Ross Collins. I'm speaking with you today to discuss the violence in video games and why the censorship of video games to prevent violence is wrong and ineffective. Former attorney Jack Thompson once said of video games, "They're dangerous physical appliances that teach a kid how to kill efficiently and to love it." The argument that violence in video games causes violent behavior is not new. It waxes and wanes and is ever present when tragic acts of violence are committed. During the 80s and early 1990s, a handful of games, notably 1981's Wolfenstein and 1991's Duke Nukem, helped perpetuate the idea that violence in video games was potentially harmful. In 1982, U.S. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop implicated video games as a leading cause of family violence. He cited no scientific evidence to back up his claims. And just how valid is this argument? Despite studies done since the 1980s, a link between the violence of video games and violent behavior has never been reliably demonstrated. In December 1993, Senators Joe Lieberman and Herb Kohl spearheaded a congressional hearing amid concerns that the game industry was irresponsibly marketing violent video games to minors. These hearings were largely a response to the popularity of the fighting game Mortal Kombat. In response, the video game ratings of 1994 was created, establishing an industry-standard rating system. The rating system consists of three parts: age appropriateness, content description, and the game's interactive elements. The age-appropriate portion of the rating is simply what age group the intended users would fall under. This can range from early childhood and everyone, games such as Mario Party 9, and teen, like Batman Arkham Origins, all the way to mature audiences and adult. An example of a mature audience game would be Grand Theft Auto 5. The content lets buyers know what to expect in the game and particular facets of the games that may be of concern to parents and guardians, such as violence, language, sexual content, drug use, and more. For instance, Grand Theft Auto 5 contains intense violence, blood and gore, nudity, mature humor, and many other facets that warrant the mature rating. The rating's last part is of its interactive element, an area of particular concern to contemporary audiences. This includes things like sharing a gamer's location or personal information with third parties to the gamer's potential interaction with other online users. Games like Madden are generally played online with another gamer that may potentially be unfamiliar to whom is playing the game. The actions of the other gamer may be something that a parent or guardian might not want their child to hear. These are things to consider. The ratings have evolved over the years, with new ratings categories, content description, and interactive elements being added to adjust to the ever-changing video game industry. Aggressive campaigns to promote awareness of the rating system have been ongoing since the early 2000s. Jack Thompson also said, "If some whacked-out adult wants to spend his time playing Grand Theft Auto Vice City, one has to wonder why he doesn't get a life. But when it comes to kids, it has a demonstrable impact on their behavior and the development of the frontal lobes of their brain." A lawsuit was filed against Sega, Acclaim, Activision, ID Software, and over 15 other software companies for the horrible shooting at Columbine in 1999. The video game Doom was specifically cited. This game was known to be extensively played by all of the shooters in the Columbine school shooting. U.S. District Court Judge Babcock dismissed the suit against the gaming companies. Judge Babcock stated that no reasonable person could have foreseen these violent acts being created by the games that the kids played. Researchers still have not been able to prove a direct cause and effect relationship with violent video games. These are broad concepts that are difficult to measure. What exactly constitutes violence? Are video games protected by the First Amendment? How can we say for certain that playing video games would directly cause a person to act violently? Also, we must consider what the underlying causes are for someone to act out in such a way, whether signs of mental illness or other factors. There have been numerous counts of contradictory research. For instance, in 2011, the study Psychology of Violence found that people who had played competitive games, regardless of whether they were violent or not, exhibited increased aggression. In 2012, the The study, Cyber Psychology, Behavior, and Social Networking, found that cooperative playing in the graphically violent Halo 2 made the test subjects more cooperative even outside of video game playing. Here are some interesting facts to consider. Only 9% of games in 2012 assigned a mature rating. As video game sales in the US have risen, the amount of violent crimes has fallen. A 10-country comparison done in 2012 by Max Fisher with the Washington Post suggests that there's little to no link between violent video games and gun murders. It's very obvious that the amount of gun-related death in the US is obscenely high. But if there were to be a direct link between the consumption of video games and murders, the Netherlands would be far and away the world leader. Dr. Henry Jenkins, Post Professor of Communication, Journalism, and Cinematic Arts at University of Southern California and author of Reality Bites, 8 Myths about Video Games Debunked, has the following to say. According to federal crime statistics, the rate of juvenile violent crime in the United States is at a 30-year low. Researchers find that people serving time for violent crimes typically consume less media before committing their crimes than the average person in the general population. Video games are falling victim to larger issues at hand. They are a scapegoat and a handy villain as heinous crimes involving young people are receiving more and more media attention in an era when these types of crimes are actually becoming less common. I would ask everyone considering this issue to take the time to understand the concepts of correlation versus causation, and for each parent or guardian of a child to become more aware of what the children are playing and to become active with the children in explaining the real-world implications of acting violently. I also think it's worth mentioning that after being found guilty of numerous infractions, including making false statements at tribunals, disparaging and humiliating litigants and other lawyers, and improperly practicing law outside of Florida, longtime anti-video game lobbyist and activist Jack Thompson has been disbarred from practicing law in the state of Florida. You can learn more about video game rating systems at esrb.org. Thanks a lot for listening, and a special thanks to my audience. Becca, George, Baby George, and Humphrey.